Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today we have the Battlefield 5 roadmap. It just dropped on Reddit, giving us some information about what to expect from Chapters 3, Chapters 4, and Chapters 5. We basically just installed the Chapter 3 patch and it's going to kick off on Monday with the Firestorm content, but there's also going to be a new Greece map that I'll talk about in a sec. I've got some pretty strong opinions regarding this roadmap, and I'll save that for the end of the video. Right now, I just want to get the actual information out to you guys. Chapter 3, let's begin there. Obviously, we're getting Firestorm. We already know about that, but we're also getting a map that takes place in Greece. This is surrounding the Battle of Crete. The map is called Mercury. It's based on Operation Mercury. We have a very small image of the map. It's basically an island in the Mediterranean. It looks very beautiful. I think some of that leaked imagery we saw earlier might have been of this map as well. And it looks pretty. It is going to be, I think, again, British fighting the Germans over this battle. There were some other factions mixed in there, but in terms of what assets are in the game right now, I think it'll be sort of more of the same in terms of Brits and Germans fighting, again, just in a new environment. There's also a new mode variation called Fortress, which says experience siege warfare in single sector experience based on breakthrough. Heavily fortified locations must be defended from attackers attempting to conquer it piece by piece. Curious to see what that becomes. And then there's a new mode called Outpost. It says spread the word and find new recruits. In Outpost, you'll secure and build objectives to ensure your team assembles enough soldiers to endure through the fight. This sounds like some sort of AI combined, potentially wave assault style mode with building implemented in there. Could be kind of cool if done well, but I've been pretty underwhelmed with the AI modes in Battlefield 5 so far. There's updates to Combined Arms. They're bringing new matchmaking, a hardcore mode, and 2 missions on Fiel. The matchmaking update is good, certainly for Combined Arms, but I think I speak for most Battlefield fans when we say, who cares? Like, Combined Arms is just a massive failure in my opinion, and they should not put any more work into it. But this stuff was probably already in the work for a while before they even realized that Combined Arms was not going to be good. So we're getting more Combined Arms. Yay! And then they're also introducing duos on Firestorm, which is less of roadmap news and was already information we had. So there's that. Then we're getting 6 new weapons and weekly rewards through the Tides of War system. So that's the content that's coming in Chapter 3. Chapter 3 goes all the way through until June, and then starting in June is Chapter 4. Now, Chapter 3, altogether, the content isn't too bad, but it kind of splits the community. So if you're not interested in Battle Royale or don't anticipate spending a lot of time in the Battle Royale mode, well, then you're getting 1 map and 6 weapons and, I don't know, maybe some cosmetic updates. It's not a huge amount of content to hold you over until June. Really, it's very light on the content for the base game, but there's Firestorm. So if you're interested in Firestorm, then you get to mess around with that. I didn't really mention Combined Arms because I honestly don't know who plays Combined Arms other than to just cheese through weapon assignments. But there's Combined Arms content, and I don't anticipate that entertaining anyone for too long. Alright, moving on to Chapter 4, starting in June. Chapter 4 is called Defying the Odds. They're introducing new close quarter combat content, a new 5 vs 5 game mode in specially designed arenas. This honestly sounds a lot like another stab at a competitive mode for the Battlefield franchise, much like they tried to with Battlefield 1, but it never really picked up steam. Maybe this is taking that content and trying to reimagine it for Battlefield 5. We'll have to wait and see. There's 2 new maps for the base game this time, one called Marita, adding to the conflict in Greece. The small concept thumbnail actually looks really pretty, so I'm curious to see what this map looks and plays like. And then the second map is a closely guarded secret that the veterans of the franchise should enjoy, according to DICE. So there's no information on the second map, but it is titled Urban Combat, so I assume that means it'll be some city fighting. Does this mean they're remastering a classic Battlefield map that focuses on urban gameplay? Could it be Amiens from Battlefield 1 or something similar to that? That could actually fit into the current design style of the game pretty well. Could it be a Metro reimagining. Someone pointed out that one of the background loading screens on Firestorm was actually Fort de Vaux. So is there a Fort de Vaux reimagining? I don't think so. Maybe they're just using the assets as a background for that mode. But anyway, it could be anything. I'd love to hear your opinions on what you think it is. Now, that's all that they're releasing about Chapter 4 at the moment. They do say that they're going to say a lot more about it at EA Play this summer, so more information coming, probably a bit more info on what weapons and other things might be coming to the game. So basically 2 new maps, a new 5 versus 5 close quarter combat game mode on new arenas, which I assume the arenas take place in the new maps or existing maps and are designed for more competitive game style. Now, I would also imagine that because one of the maps is taking place in Greece, it's going to be updated with some sort of operation that ties between the 2 new maps. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that we'll at least be getting an operation for the base game that takes place in Greece. Now, when it comes to Chapter 5, this is where the most interesting information comes, but it's also the most vague information so far. And Chapter 5 is not releasing till fall, which could be September at the earliest. Maybe it's going to be October. It's hard to say. So that potentially means there could be 5 to 6 months where the only new maps you'll see will be 3 new maps. That's not a huge amount of content over that time period, unfortunately. But Chapter 5 is called Awakening the Giant, and it's a completely new theater of war. Get ready for a land, air, and sea invasion in a completely new theater of war, is the description on the website. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to what Awakening the Giant means. I believe it's referring to the quote in the movie Tora, 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 which is about the attack on Pearl Harbor, where one of the Japanese generals or admirals, I believe, says that they've awakened a sleeping giant, referring to the U.S. And so this makes the most sense to me. People are like, oh, chronologically, you should have the Russians first and all that. But it makes the most sense in terms of, one, who's your audience who plays Battlefield? A huge amount of people in the U.S. play Battlefield, so certainly you probably want to cater to them. But also, you already have U.S. assets in the game from single player. So it makes the most sense to start working with what you have the most progress on. So having a U.S. theater introduced into the game makes the most sense to me. And if they are calling it Awakening the Giant, maybe this means the Pacific Theater specifically is being introduced to the game. It would be great to have D-Day and stuff added as well. That seems like content that might just be slipped in here and there, since you already have the U.S. assets and you have the Germans. Now you can start adding in U.S. and German conflicts, but I really hope this means U.S. and Japanese are fighting. But again, it's so vague information. Even I think the naming of stuff is not complete or finalized here. And to be honest, I'm quite surprised by just how inconclusive this information is, because it sounded like they're really scrambling to get this thing complete and out to us on Friday. So not having all the information there is fine to an extent, especially if they're just trying to get it to us ASAP. But the vagueness of it here is just so non-committal. And I think that's going to show heavily in the community's reaction, right? It's like, compared to, I don't know, Battlefield 4, where they told us with Premium you're getting something like 16 new maps or something. We had an idea of all the new content that was coming to the game in the future. They gave us a solid commitment of map content. And maps are what the player base wants. Sure, weapons and vehicles and factions and all that stuff are good, but people really want new maps to play. And just not having this commitment makes me lose confidence in what they're going to deliver to us. I'm certainly a skeptical person by nature, but I feel with DICE and Battlefield 5, it's definitely justified here. And the only reason for the non-committal is so that they give themselves flexibility to scale back. They have not yet released their microtransaction system, which is the only way of making post-launch money for this game, aside from getting more base game sales. They don't have a premium model, and so the microtransaction system was the way of making money. It's not even in the game yet, so if its launch, which I assume is coming out with Firestorm, or at least right around Firestorm, is underperforms and nowhere near as successful as they want it to be, then it gives them flexibility to scale back in the future. And so based on the content trickle that I've seen from Battlefield 5 so far, the new Chapter 5 Theater of War, I would not be surprised at all if it's something like 2 maps. You know, 1 map would really suck. 2 maps is what I would expect. 3 maps would be okay, but honestly, like, if you're gonna launch a new faction, maybe 2 new factions, give us 4 maps, right? People are gonna want to play the new content, and if you cycle through 2 maps over and over, it's gonna get very boring and repetitive. So I need bigger commitment from DICE. Ultimately, I think it's a mistake on their marketing and their hype train and all that stuff to try and get people excited or maybe to buy the game by not committing to bigger and better content down the road. I don't know how expensive it is for map design and faction design, but I mean, this is World War II. This is the Battlefield World War II game, the first one since their original Battlefield game, and it just feels like it's being spread so thin and under-delivering. I want big, cool stuff coming in the future, and I want DICE to commit to it. You don't have to tell me everything that's coming, not all the specifics. You don't have to be like this gun and this gun and this gun and this plane and this tank and this. Just be like, guess what? There's going to be 4 new maps coming with the new Pacific Theater of War. Awesome. Now I'm excited for the future content. But with this whole vagueness, sleeping giant thing, and new Theater of War, it's like, okay, cool, there's a new theater, but honestly, I'm expecting a very, very small amount of content from it, given the current rate at which things are progressing. And so, yeah, that's how I feel after reading this roadmap. Disappointed with the lack of information and the vagueness of information and the non-committal approach of DICE here. And if they're trying to hype people up for future content, I promise you, non-committal approach is the worst way to go about it. Anyway, that's what I think. That's my honest opinion after just reading the roadmap and just getting on here and voicing it out to you guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.